Hello and welcome to the Joy Dealers podcast, where we talk about emotional healing and inner work in general. Today I was on my walk in the forest and I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, and it got me thinking about two limiting beliefs or two inner truths that we carry, and those are being too much and not being enough. And when I felt into myself, it resonated with me that the first one is feminine, so being too much, and the second one is masculine, is not being enough. And I wanna explore these two limiting beliefs, because when we can bring our inner masculinity and inner femininity together, these two fears or truths or limiting beliefs can dissolve and can neutralize into union. They can become harmonious with each other, where the feminine is not afraid that if it shows itself with everything that it is, that it will be too much, that it will not be held, that it cannot let itself fall. And on the other hand, the masculine, the inner masculine, we're talking about these two energies within each human being. So it's not a question of what gender you are raised as, and more that we all have these energies within us. So the masculine is afraid of not being able to hold, not to be enough, strong enough, good enough, capable enough, present enough to hold and to be overwhelmed by the feminine. And the feminine being afraid of being too much and as a result falling and not being held. So how can we neutralize, how can we bring these two extremes to a harmony? So typically I would say one of the two will be more resonating with you. And so I would say that means that one of your energies is more elaborate than the other. And you can feel into yourself and see which one resonates with you more. If you ask yourself, do I often feel like I'm too much? Or do I often feel like I'm not enough? And I can say for myself that it is definitely the first one, being too much, being intensely emotional and with my emotions, being too much, being overwhelming. And that comes from not having experienced a container, a person, a caregiver that can hold, that can be present in my own upbringing, that can tell me it's okay. Everything that you're feeling is okay. Everything that you're feeling is normal. When we are born as human beings, we come with an innate capacity to feel all of our emotions. And when our parents or our caregivers or our surroundings have suppressed certain emotions, they can't deal with these specific feelings that the child brings. And as a result, what often unfortunately happens is that they shut it down in the child as well. They signal to the child it is not welcome. This emotion is not welcome. Because they lack the tools of holding space for a certain emotion or for certain emotions that we later on label as negative. And so if I feel like I'm too much with my feelings, that means that my inner masculine feels like it's not enough. It cannot hold. And so it would be my practice to stand stronger in my masculine, to give my inner feminine the space to express herself in all of her facets, in all of her nuances, in all of her colors and shapes and forms. And to not judge any feeling or deem any feeling unworthy or too much or negative. And so how do we work with the second one? How do we work with not feeling enough? Not being enough? That probably means that the capacity to feel was shut down, maybe completely or in large parts, and only certain feelings were acceptable, happiness, but also not ecstatic happiness, just contained happiness. And in the case of masculine socialized beings, men, anger, aggression is the second accepted emotion, typically. So in that case, there is a need to strengthen the capacity to feel and to explore your feminine a bit more, your emotional, your inner realms, and not be in the outside. Because what happens when you feel like you're not enough, you will try to compensate with all kinds of material things, with all kinds of addictive behaviors. When really what your soul is asking for is opening up to your feminine, is strengthening your capacity for presence and for holding space for your own emotions. And so over the years, I've developed and learned a method that my soul and my inner being has opened up to me. A method to learn to hold space for myself, to hold space for my feminine, which is big, it's vast, it's intense, there's a lot of emotion and a lot going on all of the time within me. And to not want to have someone outside of myself who needs to hold space for me all of the time, because it is overwhelming for another human being. And to be there enough for myself that I can bring into union my inner masculine and inner feminine, and have my inner masculine hold space and be present with what's going on in my inner world and my emotional world. And then if I feel like sharing it with my partner or with people around me, it's not so desperate, because I already know I have the capacity within myself to hold space for myself. And then sharing what is going on within me becomes much lighter on the other person. And then I experience less and less that I am too much for people around me, because I don't need to express it outwardly, because I developed the capacity to be able to hold space for myself. So thank you for listening. I really felt today to share this with you. And if you feel drawn to learning these methods of holding space for yourself, feel free to contact me at amira@thejoydealers.com. So much love to you, and may you find the inner union of your masculine and feminine energies.